May I introduce you to this bag that I've had since I was a teenager. It has been holding up wonderfully. I've recently been on a little trip to Dresden, which is a German city that I actually found to be very beautiful and as an artist really inspiring. If I may direct your attention over to this wall, Dutch angle if I've ever seen one. It's actually also the city depicted on this painting. Stood right here, actually. If you need proof, follow me on Instagram. My name's Tommy. You've just witnessed one of my infamous detours in hopes to explain to you why this project is important. Welcome to that system error. Back to this. Relevancy incoming. On that trip, I had with me this bag. Now, as a teenager, I thought this kind of collage-y design was fire. Not gonna lie, that feeling has passed. Thought about getting rid of this many times, but it's the absolute perfect size. It's got all the right straps and all the right lengths, the right amount of different types of compartments. So in many ways, it is perfect. Just visually in desperate need of a makeover, which is what we're doing so that whenever I go to a cool fancy place next, I don't embarrass myself by displaying my outdated teenage taste. Now, I don't exactly know which direction I want to go with this yet. It's just a bit too much all at once with the patterns and stuff going on. But whenever I have paired this, so to say, with an outfit that had too much color in it already, which is to say not very much, but too much for me. Add this mess on top. I have opted to just turn it around. Backup option if I mess up the front. Also on the sides here, it has these fabric patches, and I actually quite like this one, but it is fraying quite a bit, and I don't like that one, so if I could get rid of that as well, that'd be great. But to figure out what materials I'm gonna even work with before I think of a design. Flat surface on this side would really help. So I'm just gonna rip these off carefully. And if this were a home renovation, I really hope there's hardwood floors under there and not stuff that is better left covered. Fingers crossed. Alright, I'm back here after one long whole day of seam ripping, and I'm still not completely done. I just sort of got into a very stoic workflow. It's a bit of a blur. I don't know where, you know, the 24 hours of yesterday went. Also, this base layer just looks very perforated, so I doubt that's ever fully gonna go away. So I might have to cover the whole of it anyways, so this might have been sort of pointless, but I did want to remove this stuff either way. Also, maybe I'm gonna be able to cut some of this into different shapes and reuse it somehow. This S part has been an absolute pain. Also on this side there's a hole now because the G was really wedged in there, and I caught the thread that is holding this entire bag together apparently, so gonna have to sew that back shut. It has actually proven to be sort of helpful because I could reach in there and pull out some of the threads of the other stuff from the bag. I wouldn't exactly call it a happy little accident. So before I get back to that and have to worry about the design, you know, the main part, I want to stay true to the way I play Assassin's Creed games and go on the side quests first. Panel parts. I've had an idea of what to do about that. Let me just raid the fabric stash real quick. Right, this one. I'm in the possession of these old curtains. Why, yes, they are from the 90s. What gave it away? I do want to keep the original design in mind, sort of. Feel of it. It reminds me of this one very much. I'm not gonna rip this apart and then properly sew this back in, because I also don't want to deal with having to sew this material. Not more than this hole that I've created already anyway. Fabric has like two sides basically where the colors are inverted. One side purple background, gray designs, gray background, purple designs. But I'm not really sure about that yet. Color of this curtain changes depending on how the light hits it, but in general, I think the gray matches this handbag in like tone very well. So that is what one might describe as a happy little accident. These ones are like actually part of the construction, obviously. They're not just put on top. Zipper parts are really like on there. Cut strips a little bit wider, put this on top of that, which means this has just turned into a hand sewing project. Free me from the shackles of this hell. I could probably make a playlist at this point of like at least sewing involving projects and why it's not a good idea. I wouldn't say I'm bad at it, it just takes forever. But usually my hands are sore after. It's been like 5 weeks without me noticing time passing. Then I question whether I even want to do this anymore. Any of it. So yeah, perhaps not my absolute favorite way of working. But hey, the project needs what the project needs. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Aspect, you aren't solving anything.
I think I got the basic shape down. Problem with that fabric. Fray horribly. I may have to do my favorite thing of all time. Already did a test run on this one. Go along the edges with a lighter, or as I like to call it, flambeing the edges. Also, I cut like a little slit up top here, just fold over to accommodate for these zipper ends and sort of go around them so that everything's nice and neat, properly covered. I'm gonna finish off the top edge with the sewing machine before putting them on, only sewing into the fabric. Also, I've decided I'm just gonna use this side for all of them with a gray background because I think there's enough purple in there and this is just gonna stick out like a sore thumb. You kinda still want this to be very neutral so that it goes with everything. 3 more strips, 4 edges to sew along. All 4 strips done, zipper space accounted for. We move on to sewing. The dream is to have as many desks as I have different methods of being creative, so I don't have to set up anything ever. Then again, a lot of it would just collect dust while I'm not using it, but you know, one can still dream. Well, 2 of them came out looking nice and neat. Good enough for me. Use my flat iron to press down the seams like a professional. Onto the hand sewing. Yes, I'm still hung up on Halloween. What about it? Appreciate that for a second. Mississippi. I break out more of the cozy lighting, but that's not very beneficial when you're trying not to accidentally prick yourself with a needle. Lots of sewing ahead. Wish me luck. I got about 1 hour of Dylan's in Trouble on his Ooga Booga channel, judging r/am I the asshole posts. We're gonna see how far we can get in that time.
Yeah, that makes me kind of feel this, where it's like, we don't talk about.
Days of sewing and thread pulling later, and I only regret most of the life choices that have led me here. This is as good as the front's gonna get. Would have preferred a clean canvas, but maybe it doesn't really matter that much anyways, because we're gonna have to cover that up. Good news, however, sides looking great. If you pull at the seams like a lot, you can still see the original underlying fabric, but who's gonna do that, you know? Not me. Also, the whole thing's rather slouchy, so usually you can't see it, and it looks really good, I think. Glad I did the tops with the sewing machine, because it was hell from there on. Before I forget, close the hole. All good? Never been there? We don't need to tell a soul. I've also had enough time to think about the front design, and basically I have an idea. Don't know if it's gonna work. Because we have to cover up these bottom parts, I wouldn't want to cover the whole thing because I think that's gonna be too much. I thought that maybe I could do something in this shape, sort of. If I can figure out how to cover up this stupid dream with 2 exclamation marks. That's another problem we'll have to deal with. Also, what material am I even gonna use to cover this up? I don't really want to use any more of this fabric because I like the subtlety of it on the sides. I wouldn't really pick this bag up to throw myself into a rainstorm. However, there's always a chance when you're out and about you're gonna just get caught in rain. So it should be something, especially because it's the front, that could withstand that. And then it came to me. This, my friends, is why we never throw something away. This is a black jacket that I actually recently replaced because the zipper broke years ago. Also, it's like fraying and coming apart at the zipper seams. The basic material, perfectly fine, and black, and made to withstand all kinds of weather. Why not use it? You know, maybe I could even keep some of this stitching and seams because then it would already give it a bit of dimension. At least in this light, it looks like the stitching on this jacket is actually gonna match the gray of this bag very well. If the happy accidents continue, I would be all for that. We've arrived at the fun part. I spent the weekend researching, and by that I mean scrolling through an endless amount of purses and handbags. Just purse! Oh my god. Haven't used that word once since I started filming this video. I knew there was another one that I couldn't quite reach for in my brain. Well, I'm not sure I know the difference really anyway, so I'm just gonna keep on using them interchangeably. I scrolled through an endless amount of purses and handbags and whatever the difference is to get some inspiration, and I got a couple cool ideas out of that. So now we get to play around with everything and finally figure out a design. Made a template, half of it for the front of the bag or purse, depending on who you ask and when. Held it up to it a million times now, so I hope it's the right shape. If not, cut up one of the arms of the jacket. So get a flat piece of fabric there. All that's really standing in my way right now is I need to think about how I'm gonna finish off the top edge so that I know if I need to account for it while cutting. How am I gonna attach this front piece to the purse itself? Not by sewing, not a snowball's chance in hell. Can tell you that much for fucking free right now. So other options, gluing potentially, but what kind of glue? I know hot glue is always an option, but if you're new here, one thing about me, hate hot glue. Overrated bullshit. Bulky, not flexible, spiderwebby bits everywhere. No. If I can avoid it, I will. So as of right now, no clue. None. I have had a long, extensive fight with the sewing machine for the better half of yesterday, and I can report it has won. You won, I give up. Oh, Grandmaster of Thread, I am a mere mortal, unworthy of your abilities. I've tried everything. I've lost a lot of thread in the trenches, and even though my first test seam came out looking perfect, I have completely failed to recreate that successfully. I've tried every option, I've altered everything that I can alter on this machine, and it just won't work. I think it just may not be able to handle this material. Anyways, we move, we soldier on. Now I really just want to get like the base of the front piece done because I'm gonna attach everything else to that. So before I worry about anything moving forward, I just need this edge to be clean, ideally. Two options: glue, hand sewing. Well, I did a test run of some glue that I thought might work for this yesterday, where I took a piece of the material from the stuff that I detached from the front of the purse and some of this fabric from the jacket and glued it together, left it overnight. As you can see, everything's falling apart. So what's the option that we're left? Alright, I've done it. It's sewn now. Basically wasted another day on that, but I got it done. Hopefully that shape fully fits on here because otherwise, well, I've got another glue here that I'm gonna test out. And if neither of those things work out, I might just start sniffing it. Back to the fun part. I'm gonna have to clean this. I didn't think that through. The design. Okay, there's finally been a good revelation in the lab. The second glue trial has been successful. Honestly, I don't really know what good that is and how exactly I'm gonna use it, but it's so nice to have the option to not sew it on, you know? However, where there's good news, there's bad news, as has been a theme of this project. My original plan was to add some detailing to this by, you know, sewing like an accent color or something. So that's out the window. So I think I'm just gonna experiment with maybe cutting out some of the stitched seams, lay it on, do something with that. Bless the inventors of glue. I got some old jewelry here. Maybe I can use some of this somewhere, somehow. The stupid dream thing is mostly covered now, but I still need something for the rest of it. I was thinking, hang on, let me do a sketch real quick. That's the front of the bag, yeah. That is my nice front piece that I've cut out of the jacket. And up here is still a bit of the dream showing. So I'm thinking of doing a little half circle. Ideally with some different texture, color, maybe even different feel. Something along those lines. And then I might try add some of the seams from the jacket in like this sort of shape. That is the very rough basic idea. Let's see where that takes us. This is eventually going to be that part. This time the slight messiness was intentional, I swear. I also found this amidst my old jewelry. Bracelet made out of beads. Look at that color match. It would be a crime not to make use of this. And I've been thinking about embroidery, unfortunately for me. Cut this open, finish off the edge with the silver beads. Should look cool and not take forever. Well, I say that now. I'm really tired. Aside from this project, I'm also in the midst of Christmas baking, which means that I spent my nights baking and decorating cookies like there's no tomorrow. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I'm sure that bodes well for the final part of this project, where everything could still go very wrong and all my hard work up until this point could have been for nothing. But I got all the parts. All that is left to do is assembling everything. Front part, stitching details from the jacket, my personal and final contribution. I got some fabric from an old t-shirt, did the stitching with the machine. This time I won. Embroidery. I know I said I didn't want to see any thread anymore. very much the beginning of this project. That's just what happens. You sort of recover from that, and then you think in the final stretch, hey, how about I do more of the stuff that I hate and that hasn't really been going well up to this point? How about it? I gotta admit, most of the time, and I think in this case as well, it turns out to be worth it. Double threaded blanket stitch that involved 2 beads at a time for every stitch. Slight hiccup at the point when I realized that not, as I suspected, some of the beads, but most of them, in fact, did not fit over the eye of any needles I possessed. So that was really fun, but evidently I managed. Hoping and praying for the glue to do its thing, because I really am not touching any thread anymore. And then I will see you after this is completed.
Make all the demons quiet, yeah, we were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've already know, yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've already know. Sick of dealing with the old plan, they know that we're calling it wrong.
This feels right. From here to now here. What's the significance of that neon teacup? I don't know. It casts a cool purple light. I have it and I might go for coffee with this bag. There you go, that's it really. It's finally done. The glue really came in clutch. If I had to sew just one more thing, I would have imploded, I think. Stitching up here kind of reminds me of like the stitching on like the stuff that was on here before. In a way, it's paying tribute to that. And even though I didn't really get a chance to work any of this stuff back in, I'm sure I'll find a use for it somehow in some other project. Really love that this jacket gets a second life now. Also the bracelet and these curtains. I think it really worked out nicely, like on the sides here. Like there's a little bit of something going on, but it's not like purple. I even, and I want this known, finished the edges of this like glued on stitching part. As in I sewed in the edges. A bit more secure, a bit more neat. Definitely the easiest part to sew. It still had to be done, you know. Really glad everything worked out. I'm not quite sure how much I like it on like a scale. Just finished this yesterday and this happens quite frequently actually, especially with projects that take me a longer time. My brain hasn't really made the switch yet from like this being a project to this being a final thing that I'm not having to touch anymore. I still very much see individual parts and shapes. I don't really see the whole thing. We'll give that a few days. If I had known how long this was gonna take, I potentially would not have embarked on this journey at the point in time that I did. It never does bode well for the amount of time that it took me to do something. If I could give you a better estimate in real time than in media consumed, I had so many YouTube videos. So many. I rewatched a lot of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Not a great show, by the way. But those are the best ones to watch while you're doing stuff. New Jake Buck and Eminem album. Weeks. I think it might have been 4 or 5. I'm scared to look. Yeah, no, I didn't want to look. But I'm very much aware and a friend of the saying good things take time. It's just pressure of algorithm, so consider subscribing. And hand sewing fucking me up, basically. Every time. Obviously, this is something that is gonna be in use. It has to hold up well, so it needs to be done well. I think I managed that. So that's that. I'll be waiting for the feeling of accomplishment fully settling in. Thanks for watching. Rock on or whatever. Bye.